Good, Count Corla. I want to speak in support of the amendments that Deputy Naughton has put forward on behalf of the regional group, and particularly in the area that I have a concern is around the agricultural sector. And I think there has been, in media discussion over the last number of months, a very tacit steering of identifying the agricultural sector as a big problem in terms of climate. And I don't think that's entirely justified. I think the issue of biogenic methane, we spoke about it in the House before. New Zealand had come up with a construct that separated it from the overall calculation of the greenhouse gas component, and I believe that should have been done with this legislation, albeit the Minister has chosen not to. I think we need to recognise that farmers are the custodians of the general environment and the countryside, and they will be the custodians of the future food agri sector. And it does not make any sense to me at all that we could in the future be looking for reductions in the national herd and in beef production while we watch the EU take in beef under Mercosur from South America and look at the rainforest being cut down in order to supply that product into the EU. That doesn't make any sense, and it will do absolutely nothing to mitigate climate change. In fact, it will contribute to it. I would also point out at the present in terms we have a dysfunctional forestry sector. And again, we have one of the lowest components of forestry of any European country. We are trying to be self-sufficient. We have made attempts in the last, very poor attempts, in the last 12 months to try and provide some functionality to this sector. And if we are going to follow what we have done in forestry in terms of what we're going to do in climate change, we certainly will not be successful. And yet I can see agriculture being picked as an outlier, an easy outlier. Some years ago, I was involved in a business that sold energy-saving equipment into the public sector. And I gave it up after 18 months because it was nearly impossible to get change done within that. And I have a feeling that we will be in the same place again. And I'd ask you also, Minister, what is happening in terms of the grants for solar arrays that were promised to farmers over the last number of years and the connections? We could be doing so much more to develop renewable energy that hasn't been happening. And I know this bill will be speaking about renewable energy at a time when, has been alluded to already, we have entered into over 20 contracts, it appears, with international data centres. So there is a lot that is not right with this climate bill, but at the same time, I, like everybody else, recognise the need that we have to start doing something for the environment. I too will support, along with Deputy Naughton, legislation that we in the group hope to bring later after the recess that you will consider, Minister. But I ask you to think carefully and to think long, particularly in terms of the farm and food agri sector, which is a prince amongst the economic components of this country, which is totally ingrained in the Irish culture, and the damage that we can do will last a very, very long time and will not do very little, I suspect, to mitigate climate change.